Hey everyone, welcome to the show. You know that feeling when you're pulled between what's safe and familiar and the urge to chase after something new and exciting?
Oh, absolutely.
That push and pull is at the heart of The Mountains Between Us, which is the historical fiction we're diving into today.
It's a great one.
Oh yeah, definitely hit that like and subscribe button if you want to join us on more deep dives like this one. So we'll be talking about love and loss and ambition set against this epic backdrop of the Oregon Trail and the California Gold Rush.
Hmm.
And by the way, there's an Amazon link to the book in the description if you want to read along with us.
Okay, great.
But before we jump into the story itself, let's set the stage a little bit. What's the historical context here? What do we need to know to really understand what's going on?
Well, imagine 1848 in the Oregon Territory. The West is still this wild frontier full of promise and peril. It's a really interesting time. Our main characters are Grace and James Randolph. They're newlyweds, and they're living with Grace's brother and his family. But then news of gold in California hits and everything changes. Suddenly, that stability of family life just doesn't seem as appealing, especially for someone like James.
I see.
He's got a military background, he's used to structure and
Oh,
discipline.
yeah.
So the gold rush, the freedom and adventure it promises, it must have been a powerful pull for him.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it like that. But it wasn't just about getting rich for someone like James, was it? It
No.
was more about breaking free from the routine, embracing the unknown, even if it meant risking everything.
Right.
So we've got James, eager to chase his fortune. But what about Grace? How does she feel about leaving everything behind? Is she on board with this adventure?
That's where the story gets really interesting because Grace isn't just some meek wife following her husband. She's
Right.
strong-willed and capable, used to hard work and making do with what she has.
Oh, wow.
So when they set out on this dangerous journey across the Oregon Trail, she's right there with James, facing the same hardships, the same risks.
She doesn't shy away from the challenge. She embraces it.
Absolutely.
I bet those challenges along the trail revealed a lot about their characters, their strengths, and their weaknesses.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And about their relationship. Were there any scenes that really stood out to you in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. There's one scene where they encounter a group of Native Americans. It's this tense moment. There's mistrust on both sides.
Wow.
But Grace, she steps forward unarmed and offers them a gesture of peace, a piece of her precious bread.
Hmm.
It's a small act, but it speaks volume about her courage
Yeah,
and her willingness to see past fear and prejudice.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
It seems like their journey is about more than just reaching California.
Uh-huh.
It's about self-discovery, about pushing their boundaries and confronting their assumptions.
Totally.
And I'm guessing their encounters with other gold seekers along the way only added to that complexity.
Oh, for sure. The trail was this incredible mix of people, each with their own dreams and motivations.
Yeah.
You had families looking for a better life, fortune hunters willing to risk it all,
Uh-huh.
some even running from their past. This blend of hope and anxieties, I think, is what the author captures so well.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm of humanity on the move, all driven by this shared desire for something more.
Right, but even with a common goal, you still have the complexities of human nature.
Yeah, they're not just battling the elements in the terrain, they're dealing with the unpredictable nature of human ambition and desperation.
It's true.
And in the middle of all this, their relationship is constantly being tested,
Uh-huh,
refined, reshaped.
for sure.
Tell me more about how their bond evolves during this journey.
You see the strain of the journey taking its toll. James, driven by this need to succeed, pushes himself relentlessly, sometimes forgetting the needs of those around him, including Grace. And she, while she's supportive, begins to realize that maybe, just maybe, her dreams don't quite line up with his.
That tension, that gradual realization that their paths might diverge, must be heartbreaking.
It is.
Did they ever address this disconnect?
They do have moments of communication where they try to bridge that gap. There's one scene where they're camped under the stars, and Grace confides in James.
Yeah.
She tells him about her longing for a family, a home that's more than just a temporary shelter. But James, he's consumed by gold fever.
Oh, I see.
All he can see is California as the answer to all their problems.
It's like the allure of gold is blinding him to the more subtle but equally important desires of his wife. Makes you wonder,
Yeah,
is their love strong enough to withstand the weight of these ambitions?
it's a good question.
Is their journey about finding gold or finding themselves?
I think that's what hangs over them as they finally reach California. They're exhausted, but also filled with this mix of hope and apprehension. The journey has changed them, both as individuals and as a couple, but the real test is yet to come.
It sounds like they're standing at the foot of a whole new set of mountains.
Oh, definitely.
But those mountains aren't made of rock and ice. They're made of the challenges and complexities of life in the goldfields.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, that's a perfect place to pause for now. We've followed Grace and James across treacherous mountains and through the human drama of the Oregon Trail.
Right.
But California, that brings a whole new set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely. The goldfields are a crucible, It's a place where dreams are forged and shattered,
Yeah,
and their love story is caught right in the middle of it all.
I can't wait to unpack that in our next segment. Be sure to join us as we delve deeper into the mountains between us, exploring the triumphs and tragedies that await our protagonists in the heart of the California gold rush.
Welcome back! When we left off, Grace and James had just reached California, that land of golden dreams. But as you'll see, reality has a way of hitting you in the face, even in a place overflowing with opportunity.
I bet. We talked about those hardships on the Oregon Trail, but California during the gold rush, that must have been a whole other level of crazy. What kind of environment are we talking about there?
Imagine San Francisco. It's exploding with newfound wealth, right? And there's this constant wave of people coming in from all over. It was a melting pot, but also, a breeding ground for lawlessness and unrest. It's fascinating how the author really captures this energy, this chaotic mix of hope and despair.
Wow, so how do Grace and James navigate this new world? Do they manage to find their footing amidst all the chaos? Or do they get swept up in it?
Well, that's where their paths start to, diverge even more. James, always the pragmatist, dives headfirst into mining. He sees it as his ticket to stability and security. It's what he craves. But Grace, she's drawn to the human side of this booming city. She sees the needs, the suffering, the resilience of everyday people just trying to carve out a life.
That's so in line with the compassion she showed back on the trail, right? Like when she offered food to those Native Americans. Does this lead her to a different path than James? Does she find a way to make a difference in this new world?
She does. It's pretty remarkable, actually. She taps into that same spirit of generosity and resourcefulness that we saw before. She starts cooking, selling food to those workers down on the waterfront. It's essentially a pop-up restaurant before those were even a thing.
Wow. So she's not just surviving, she's thriving. It sounds like she's got this entrepreneurial spirit, using her skills to create something out of nothing. But is it all business for her, or is there something more?
It's definitely more than just a business, I think. It's a way for her to connect with people, to build a community in this often isolating and cutthroat environment. And, as she interacts with the diverse community of San Francisco, she starts to understand the social injustices that are plaguing this new society.
It's like while James is focused on striking it rich in the gold field, Grace is finding her own kind of gold, the gold of human connection and making a difference. But do their paths ever cross during this time? Do they find any common ground in their individual pursuits?
They do connect from time to time, but there's this growing tension between them. James is preoccupied with the dangers of mining, always on edge. He's also, wrestling with some past trauma from his military days, stuff he keeps bottled up.
Oh, wow.
And Grace, well, she's yearning for a deeper connection, someone to really share the burdens of this new life with.
It sounds like a classic case of two people growing apart while living under the same roof. They're both going through these huge transformations, but they're not necessarily growing together. And I can only imagine that the dangers of the gold rush just amplify those challenges. Are there any specific events that really put their relationship to the test?
There is a pivotal moment that changes everything. James, along with Grace's brother and a close friend, they get captured by this ruthless gang.
Oh, no.
And they're forced to work in this remote mine. It's devastating for Grace. She's left alone in a city that can be so unforgiving, especially for women.
This feels like a huge turning point in the story. Grace, who has already shown incredible strength and resilience, now faces her biggest challenge yet. How does she cope? How does she deal with this sudden loss and the daunting task of rescuing her loved ones?
This is where we see Grace's character truly shine. Remember, this is a woman who crossed the Oregon Trail, built a business from scratch, and navigated the chaos of a boomtown. She's not going to just sit back and wait for someone to save the day.
No, she doesn't strike me as the type to sit around, so she takes matters into her own hands. Does she have anyone to help her? Any allies in this fight?
She does, and this is where the novel highlights the power of female solidarity.
I love that.
Grace remembers the kindness she's received from other women. Reaching out, she teams up with Cora, that French saloon worker we mentioned, and Ling Mei, the Chinese laundress she took in when others turned their backs on her.
Wow.
Together, they hatch this daring plan to infiltrate the mine and free the captive men.
This alliance of women from different backgrounds, united in their determination to fight for what's right. It's such a powerful statement. It reminds us that strength can be found in the most unexpected places, and that even when things seem impossible, courage and compassion can prevail. But how do they pull off this rescue? What skills and resources do they bring to the table?
That's where things get really exciting. We'll dive into the details of their plan and the challenges they face in the next part. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate Grace's journey. From a young woman seeking a new life to a fierce advocate for justice, she embodies the spirit of resilience that defines this era.
And she's not alone. She's got this community of strong, resourceful women who are rewriting the rules in a society that tries to limit their choices and power. I'm so eager to see how their story unfolds. Welcome back, listeners. Last time, we left Grace, Cora, and Ling Mei on this mission to rescue their loved ones from that ruthless mining gang. Talk about high stakes. I'm on the edge of my seat. So what happens next? Do they pull it off? Do they actually manage to rescue them?
Oh, you won't be disappointed. Their plan is just brilliant. A mix of ingenuity and courage. Remember how each of these women has her own unique set of skills?
Yeah.
Well, Cora, with her charm and her knowledge of that whole mining underworld, she helps them gather information and get the supplies they need. Ling Mei, always resourceful and quick-witted, she comes up with this clever distraction, creates chaos within the camp.
Wow.
And Grace, with her unwavering determination and, let's not forget her sharpshooting skills, she's ready for anything.
That's what I love about this story. It's not just about physical strength. It's about using your smarts, working your connections, and coming together to overcome these crazy obstacles. I can't even imagine the tension infiltrating that mine. Were there any close calls? Any moments where it almost fell apart?
Oh, definitely some heart-stopping moments. There's this one point where they're nearly caught
Oh, no.
by one of the gang leaders. He's a brutal guy. But Grace, thinking on her feet, disarms him using her knowledge of firearms and just pure nerve.
Wow.
It's such a great scene. It shows not just her physical abilities, but also her quick thinking, her refusal to back down.
It's like all those challenges she faced, on the trail, building her business and surviving in San Francisco. It's all led up to this. She's become a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But what about the emotional impact? How does this rescue, this encounter with violence and injustice, affect her?
That's a really important part of the story. Even though Grace succeeds in freeing James and the others, the experience changes her. She's seen the worst of humanity, that disregard for life that often comes with the pursuit of wealth. And it makes her confront some hard truths about James.
What do you mean? Does James come back a changed man? Does their reunion provide that closure and healing they need?
Their reunion, it's bittersweet. They're obviously overjoyed to be together again. But James is really haunted by what he went through. He struggles with the violence he's witnessed and even guilt from his past actions in the military. He just wants a peaceful life with Grace. But Grace, while she understands his struggles, she gets frustrated by his inability to open up, to really share his burdens with her.
It's like they've conquered those external mountains, the trails, the gang, but now they've got this internal mountain between them, that emotional distance. It's threatening to tear them apart. How do they navigate this? Do they find a way to rebuild their connection?
That's where the author's exploration of trauma and healing gets really interesting. Grace, she realizes James needs time to process everything. She encourages him to use his energy for something good, something meaningful.
Okay.
And James, he recognizes that need for a fairer society. So he throws himself into drafting California's Constitution.
So instead of chasing gold, they're pursuing a better future. For themselves, for California. It's a powerful reminder that even after trauma and disappointment, hope can lead to growth and change. But does this bring them closer together, or does it push them further apart?
Well, their journey towards healing, it's not easy. There are definitely setbacks and misunderstandings. But through it all, their love for each other remains. It's that anchor that keeps them together when the storms hit. And as they watch California transform from this lawless frontier to a state striving for justice, they find a way to rebuild their relationship, bit by bit.
The mountains between us, it's not just an adventure or a romance, is it? It's about resilience, the power of love and forgiveness, and that enduring hope that even when things are tough, we can overcome those obstacles and find understanding and connection. It's inspiring.
Absolutely. I think that message speaks to all of us, no matter what mountains we're facing in our own lives.
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the mountains between us. We'd love to hear from you. What moment in the book stood out to you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more discussions on books that matter. Until next time, keep exploring the mountains within and the stories that connect us all.